Sports Lounge 233. Travis Crins here, Nathan Stack in there, Charlie Hildebrand here. It's a full house. Three folks. Nathan Stackin with the white overcoat, and here's Charlie Hildebrand as well. Joining us, it's an all white in my hat. Majority white, so we'll call it a whiteout here today.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of weeks. It's a big win for the basketball teams. Good exhibition wins against some terrible schools. The World Series wrapped up a couple days ago, and we haven't talked about the World Series. Astros beat the Dodgers in 7 games. It was the best World Series I've ever witnessed. Nathan Stackin, what say you? Swig it up.
I thought games 2 and 5 were outstanding. Game 1 was short, and that was...
Was it?
I mean, we saw the most home runs ever in postseason history, most home runs ever in history. And, yeah, I mean, just the back and forth. Here I thought Game 7 was somewhat anticlimactic. The Astros score early and then just ride it out to victory. People questioning Dave Roberts for maybe not starting Clayton Kershaw instead of Yu Darvish. I have no issue with starting Yu Darvish. So I agree with you that I do think it was one of the best World Series, if not the best World Series ever. But Game 7 did not live up to the hype of the rest of the series. Always take Sports Illustrated for their predictions. I will never, ever doubt them when they declare a champion.
Well, they thought Masahiro Tanaka was going to sign with the Rockies, so they can get fucked right away. So that
if you go by that logic, Stacking, you're going to make a lot of wrong picks in the near future by just trusting sports.
I know.
Sports Illustrated implicitly. Not that I have anything against SI. It's just really tough picking things.
Let me expand on that. If they predict a champion 3 or 4 years out in the future, I'm with them.
You're with them. Well, weren't you with them this year, basically? Almost. We didn't pick them, but we got on the wagon quickly.
Yes, we did. And that was they have a very good young team, and I think a team that's going to be a power in the AL for many years to come. Them and the Yankees. It's going to be those two teams for the next, I'd say, half dozen years or so.
So Krins has this World Series number 1 that he has watched.
Oh, yes.
What do you say, Stacking? Is this?
I tend to think that last year's World Series was, but I mean, I guess, and I don't recall the '91 World Series at all, but I would 7 the Jack Morris. 10 innings and they win 1-0. I'd say that's probably the best game, the World Series game of all time. But I guess from what I recall, yeah, this one would have to be right up there. That and last year are 1 and 2 for me in my book.
This one was really good, and I'm going to say that because I don't want to sound like I'm knocking it before saying this. I like last year's better, and I like the 2001 Diamondbacks over the Yankees.
Yep.
This is not fair. But when Game 7's not one of the best 2 games of the series, it just sort of kind of ends on an odd note for me. If Game 7 didn't have to be great. If it would have been just like a relatively, a game that went down to the final out in more doubt than it was, it'd probably be number 2 over Diamondbacks Yankees for me. But I've got this one as 3. If you want to say this one's number 1, I don't have any problem with that. It was still incredibly good, with a couple of maybe the best single games I've maybe ever seen in a World Series. So it was still fantastic. And it's still in the top 3 for me. That's pretty good.
Show in place, and what the hell is it? Win, show in place?
I believe so, yeah, for horse racing.
Yeah. Stacking, I think, will say Game 7 of last year was better. Game 5 was the greatest thing I've ever seen in sports, with the 13-12 win. With all the home runs and the comebacks by Houston.
5 hours.
Huh?
Yep.
I mean, that was...
No, I was just saying 5 hours. I would agree with that statement.
Yeah, you think you like Game 7 better? Both terrific. Thought Game 5 had it was a little longer, a little more length. Game 7 maybe had more importance with it being a Game 7 and with it being the Cubs. And with Houston only not winning it ever for the last 56 years instead of 108 years. But Game 5 was something else. Charlie, what do you make of the baseballs? The baseballs all of a sudden became a big story, and how slick they were, and how pitchers, specifically on sliders, couldn't pitch well. It seemed like you, Darvish, had the biggest problem with this. Do you have a problem with the baseballs that seem to have changed again?
I mean, generally, I don't always like when they change stuff in sports. I don't know the ins and outs of it probably as well as you guys do, but I know I've heard about them being much more slick now. I mean, I guess in some ways it makes it so there will probably be more offensive games, so it would probably make more runs, so that's sort of interesting. And I'm not opposed to that, but I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
Mr. Jackrabbit?
From what I heard regarding you, Darvish, I mean, he was kind of tipping his pitches a little bit, so it was a little easier for Houston to get after him. Overall, I think it's a bad look if Major League Baseball did tamper with the baseball a little bit, and they will steadfastly deny it. That what is the old adage? Chicks dig the long ball.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. You can't be fooled again, right there.
That's true.
GW 43. Look out. There.
I like offense. I like seeing the number of home runs, but I think this is similar to '98 when you had the steroids and performance enhancing drugs. Except now Major League Baseball is like, yeah, we're not talking about the drugs. We're just changing the baseball. So if something is going on with that, I think that takes away from the greatness of this series and of this postseason. But I mean, if it's just that the pitchers couldn't pitch and they give all the batters the credit for doing that, what it comes down to is when Yasiel Puig can just have one hand on the bat and it go into the upper into the seats in left field there in Houston, or who was it for the Yankees that did that? I'm like, that's
Frazier.
Shallow fly to left, and here we go. I guess it's a home run. Now, granted, Yankee Stadium has one of the easier parks to hit a home run at, but it does seem to me that there is something going on, but I know baseball will steadfastly deny it.
There was a steady decline in offense for numerous years, up until 2 years ago, and then boom, this year and last year we went sky high, most home runs ever, and some people credit the launch angle and StatCast, and we can figure out, okay, what's the best way to hone my swing to hit the ball the way it should be, to get it up in the air. People don't want to hit ground balls, they want to hit fly balls. I'm sure that helps, but the balls are juiced somehow. Whatever they did to them these past couple of years, a definite disadvantage for the pitcher. So it sucks to see that, but maybe dial it down a little bit, because it may be a little bit too much home runs right there.
I wish we could go back and have okay, let's take the two extremes. Let's go super juice Paul Nett this season or this next year. And then the year after that, just to compare, let's go 1905, not at all juice ball. So the league leader in home runs is going to hit 17, and just kind of see how different it is in consecutive years.
What teams would be good then, and what teams would be not? That would be an interesting dynamic right there.
I do think it takes away. I mean, I don't think that Giancarlo Stanton would have hit any fewer.
No.
Maybe he would have hit a half dozen fewer home runs tops this year, even if the baseball was the same. I mean, that guy hits it a country mile.
It had been a while since we had a 50. Batista a couple years ago hit 50. There was maybe Ryan Howard, but it had been maybe 10 years, and we've only had maybe 2 50-homer guys. So this was not normal, and all of a sudden he challenges 60. Something's up. Yeah, at least we're smart enough now to think, hitting 60 home runs, that's not normal.
But don't we think that Stanton just has that natural power and ability?
He does, and I would say, he was finally healthy for a full year, but I would say maybe he's a 50 home run guy, not quite a 60 home run guy. It just elevated everybody. Eduardo Escobar hit 20 home runs, for God's sakes, this year. It just went went up a little bit more than it's going to take your 40 homers guy and make him 50. Going to make your 20 homer guys and make him 30. It appeared. So unfortunate. That's not the way it happened, but that is what happened. Judge with his 50 home runs. Altuve hit 7 in the World Series or in the playoffs himself, and I think he ended up with well over 20 on the season. So very impressive.
But Springer hit 5 home runs in the World Series alone, didn't he?
Yeah, and he was, I think he had a 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts in that first World Series game, and he was the MVP. So big change there. Charlie, are the Dodgers entering Atlanta Braves territory here?
That's a good question. I never thought of that before, but you can.
5 years in a row. 5 in a row they've made it.
And they've only played in the one World Series, right?
Once.
Yeah, which they could have won, but they lost. And are fantastic at getting to the playoffs, but not good at closing the deal. So, and much like the Braves, quite a few good pitching guys they've got. So yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities. The sooner the Dodgers can win at least one, which I get that the Braves won one, and that would technically just tie what the Braves did, which will at least win one to be like, okay, let's at least get this out of the way that we can finish the deal sometimes.
Texas is back.
For 1 week, I request we call the U is back on that, since the U appeared to be back after their win this past Saturday.
Ooh, but okay. I will allow this. Anyway, I guess I don't consider the Dodgers entering Braves territory yet, in large part because of what the Giants have done in that division here over the years. I guess during their World Series runs, how many times were they the division winners? Once?
The Dodgers have won it 5 years in a row.
Okay.
That's the third longest streak ever without winning a World Series. The 01 to 06 or so, Yankees won it 6 years in a row, never won the World Series. And then, of course, the Braves won it 10 years in a row from like 96 to 05 and never only got there once, didn't win it at all.
Okay, so that does make me change my my stance on it a little bit.
You would think they would win it again next year, so that would be the second longest streak next year. You'd think they would win the division again. So it's getting close.
I mean, they are essentially the Yankees of the West Coast. Let's be real here. They're just buying every. Yes, they've drafted some good players, Puig and Bellinger, but they clearly have made a stance like, hey, we're going to go after some of these guys with like the Adrian Gonzalez's, even though he didn't really pan out.
He was in goddamn Europe. We forgot to mention this. He was in goddamn Europe for the World Series. He didn't give a shit or a fuck about this game. What an asshole. What an asshole.
Speaking of Europe, Justin Verlander skipped the Astros victory parade to go get married to Kate Upton in Italy.
That is perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine.
Real quick on the Dodgers and being the best team out of the West, I was going to say the best in the National League, but then I thought for a second,
I'd give it
how much fun is it going to be next year? A Cubs, Dodgers, NLCS with the roles flipped where the Cubs fans are like, oh, haha, guess what? We've won one and you haven't recently, making fun of the Dodgers not being able to close the deal. That's what I'm looking forward to next October.
The shoe was on the other foot.
Exactly.
You know
me, I like my irony, and that's strong irony there.
It is. I can't wait for the Nationals to blow another Game 5. I just can't wait. I've got it marked down October 12th. It's going to be fantastic. So another playoff, another World Series, another baseball season has gone by. Stacken, do you make anything of Mr. Kershaw's on-again, off-again struggles? Game 1 was great. You shake your head in disgust. Are you more worried about the Cavaliers or Kershaw in the playoffs? My God.
I tend to be a little more worried about the Cavs right now.
I'd be more worried about Kershaw.
You know what? He was just fine in Game 1. Game 4, he was cruising.
Game 5. Game 5.
Excuse me. Game 5.
The game of games.
But then he comes in Game 7 and at least gives the Dodgers a chance by going 4 shutout innings. So, no, I'm not all that concerned with him.
I riddle you this. I have yet to have somebody answer this. I have yet to find it myself after digging. Kershaw has about 120 innings in the playoffs, which is quite a bit. So if you want to lower this to 80 playoff innings or even 100 playoff innings, that's fine. His ERA in the playoffs is 4.5, which is not good. I can't find a guy who's pitched 80, 100, 120 innings in the playoffs that has a higher ERA. Is there somebody out there? Maybe. I haven't found him yet. But
comparison, not to a pitcher, but to a division rival. Is he the pitching version of what Barry Bonds was in the playoffs for a long, long time? Where it was always fantastic, and then it would be like, how come you're struggling in the playoffs right now?
A-Rod was this way for many, many years. And then we kind of looked at it a few weeks ago. The great players are even better in the playoffs. You look at any great player, just go to Baseball Reference and pick 6 random guys, look at what they did in their career, and look what they did if they had any substantial playoff appearances. And they all are at least pretty good. So Kershaw, 4.5 ERA. Half of his starts have been good in the playoffs of his 20 or so, and half of them have not been good. So, and the Dodgers are about 500 in those games. So, I don't know if you warmed up the hot stove, but I believe it would be a good idea to maybe do that before you go to bed tonight.
I will do that here. It is cold up here in Fargo.
This is me shoveling coal into the hot stove.
Are we going electric this year, Stacking? What are we doing here? What are we doing?
No, we stay old school. We're stay traditionalists here.
Good.
I mean, we're not slicking the baseballs up here. We're just going.
I've got black lung from being in the coal mines for 50 years, so that's not great.
Well, I don't think that new health care bill is going to help you then, but
No.
that's neither here nor there. We will continue to chop wood and stoke the wood stove. And
What you do on your personal time is your personal time, but as far as baseball is concerned. Free agency, this will come to a shock to you, Stack, and I'm excited about the free agency. November should be an exciting month. You've got pitchers and players. Yu Darvish is a free agent. You've got Jake Arrieta, sans the beard, no beard for Arrieta. He is a free agent. You have JD Martinez, who may get the biggest haul of them all. You got dog shit players like Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas from Kansas City, who will get extreme contracts, which will be embarrassing for the clubs that sign them. So I'm very excited. Any player among those, or anybody else, or any team, and you're like,
I just wanted to know from you, what do you think is realistic here for the Twins? How are the Twins going to be attacking free agency? Who's a legitimate player, starting pitcher or bullpen
with
guy?
an iron fist? They're going to attack it with an iron fist.
Okay, we're going Game of Thrones or something here. That's
I
fine.
know.
Iron Throne this shit. But who do you think?
You want the Twins to slaughter everybody and poison them all to steal all their players?
Yes.
I think
Seems
so.
like that could come back and haunt you in some way, shape, or
If you don't get caught, they'll be fine with me.
Nope, just do it. Who do you think is a realistic possibility that the Twins will target for target field? And see what I did there? And who do you think? Do you think it will legitimately happen?
Yeah, I think they're going to do something this year. The new guys, this is their second off season after taking over last October, November. They didn't do anything last year. They signed Jason Castro. That was their move. He was fine. They got to do some stuff with the pitchers here. Tanaka has stayed with the Yankees, which may have been a surprise. Justin Upton has signed with the Angels, which may have been a surprise. Alex Cobb is the guy I want, but it appears the Rays will give him a qualifying offer. It is essentially like the franchise tag in football. It was around $17 million last year. I assume it's the same. So they give Alex Cobb a qualifying offer of $17-some million. He can accept on a one-year deal, or he can turn it down. If he turns it down, then that means there's a draft pick associated with him. So if the Twins or any other team sign Alex Cobb, then they have to give up a draft pick of some sorts, which isn't great. The Rockies did this with Ian Desmond, I think, last year. was not good. They gave up like the 11th pick in the draft, which was not a great idea, and signed him to like 5 years, 70, 80 million. So bad there. So qualifying offers, not good. Lance Lynn, guy from St. Louis, I think would be a comparable pitcher to Alex Cobb. I would like to see him sign realistically 3 guys, 2 starters, and maybe a bullpen guy, or maybe 1 starter and a couple of bullpen guys. Plenty of guys out there. Pat Neshek is out there. A litany of bullpen guys. So you could go through the list of 15 guys, pick any of them. None of the Wade Davises or the top-end stars. There's plenty of guys you can get for a 3-year deal for $18 million, $20 million. The Twins have never spent on the bullpen, so I'm wary of that. But pitchers, 4 years, $50 million. The Irv Santana, Ricky Nolasco contracts, 15 or so million a year. If you got to go 4 years or $50 million, 4 years or $60 million, I'm fine with that. But plenty of guys out there, maybe guys you can take a chance on, or maybe injured, or coming off of injuries. So,
just for fun, Corinne, real quick here. So as the hot stove, a little one on there before we kind of, let it reach higher temperature.
Yes.
In your opinion, who would you say? Let's go. The 3 top guys. The top guy at 3 different spots. The top position player, the top starting pitcher, and the top closer / bullpen guy pitcher.
In free
If you
agency?
can't think of one, that's fine. But just of guys you can think of right now, who do you think are the top guys available at those spots?
JD Martinez is the top position player. Now that Upton's off the board. Big offensive guy. Might even be a DH type. And he had a bunch of home runs for Arizona. Detroit traded him to Arizona. He was really good for Arizona. He had a bunch of home runs for them in like 60, 70 games. So he's going to be probably the biggest. JD Martinez for money. The Red Sox, I think, hit the fewest home runs of anybody, so they could use a big power bat. The Giants, as we know, very bad. Could use JD Martinez. Maybe even Houston, because he was with Houston and they released him, which was a bad move. It ended up being. So JD Martinez is your position player. Your pitcher would be Yu Darvish. He's probably not going back to Texas. Maybe the Dodgers sign him. Maybe the Cubs go after him. The Cubs are probably going to not sign Jake Arrieta. So maybe they go after him. And for closer, it'd be Wade Davis for the Cubs, who may not re-sign there. He's probably looking at 4 years and $60 million. So it'll be JD Martinez, Yu Darvish, Wade Davis, your top 3 guys. And I think the team that's going to be the winners, you had the Padres a couple years ago do some big moves. You had Arizona a couple years do some big moves. I think the Cardinals are going to be the team that are going to sign some big contracts. They're going to sign a closer, a pitcher, a bat. I think the Cardinals are going to go all in because they're sick of the Cubs winning that division.
Good offseason for Stacken's second favorite.
What do we got? Second who?
The U is back.
Saying it's going to be a big offseason for Stacken's favorite team, the St. Louis Cardinals.
It is.
As we know how much Stacken loves the Cardinals.
Best fans in baseball, Charlie. Best fans. No doubt about it. Friends, is Verlander staying with Houston?
Yep, he's under contract for 3 more years, so he's fine.
3 more. Okay, perfect.
Yep. So they'll be really good. They need some bullpen guys, as we know, because they used Charlie Morton, Brad Peacock, Lance McCullers were all very good. I like the way Mr. A.J. Hinch used that bullpen. That was A+ perfect for me. So there we go. And Stanton. Stanton might get traded. So we'll see maybe if Stanton gets traded. That'll be a big.
What? Is that a smart move for Jeter and company to make?
Stanton doesn't want to be part of a new rebuilding team since he's been a part of this. And the Marlins are pretty there. I mean, they're like a 500 team. They're not that far off. They could use some pitchers. I mean, their outfield is good. Their offense is good. They could just use some pitchers. So I don't know why they want to tear this down when they're so close to, maybe winning 85 games and being in the mix. If you get a big haul for Stanton, you can get some pitchers. Maybe the Cardinals have been rumored to give up one of their top pitching prospects because they got a bunch of them. Maybe you do that, and maybe you're in the mix still. So it would suck for the Marlins to tear it all down because they got a lot of really good players, especially in the outfield. So sucks.
Which is the Marlins, and that means that maybe is exactly what they're going to do now based on
Yes.
past
God.
history.
Very frustrating. Very frustrating if you like the Marlins. So there you go. College football yesterday. I watched it for the first time in a few weeks, and the 2:30 window, very good. You had lots of good games. You had Oklahoma State put up all the points. You had Iowa beat the pants out of Ohio State. Nobody here likes Iowa, but that was fun as hell to see. You had sports stacking, like I told you before. I'm talking sports. You had Clemson and North Carolina State, pretty good game, and you had Penn State get delayed 3 hours. And I don't know if they shit the bed again, but they lost to Michigan State, and Stacken's Penn State team dead. They're out of the deal. How disappointed are you, Stacken? Less than 10 days ago, we were talking national title, and now Jim Franklin, his bunch, out of the mix.
It hurts. I don't like it, but
That's
at
life.
the end of the day, you gotta win. You just gotta win games. I did not have a good first half, and you know what? It sucks, but how about you don't blow that 21-3 first half lead against Ohio State? How about you hold on to a 35-20 fourth quarter lead, and then maybe even if you lose a game, hey, you're still in the discussion. Why don't you do that first?
They didn't. They didn't do it first, second, or third.
To be fair, I think it's safe to say that Michigan State is the best bad weather team ever. Because 2 years ago, they beat Ohio State in Columbus with their backup quarterback when they were undefeated at number 1. Earlier this year, they didn't get a first down in the second half against Michigan and still beat Michigan in a terrible weather game. And then the huge delay against Penn State because of the weather and they win. I saw this somewhere online. I didn't come up with this, but it seems like it's probably true. I get the sense that Mark D'Antonio basically just walks around in the football complex and is like, no, we need the temperature set at 45 degrees, and we always need the sprinklers on. And this way, whenever the weather's bad, we can always win.
Maybe if Michigan State doesn't lose in 3 overtimes to Northwestern last week, they'd be in the playoff mix, being a one-loss team. Michigan State would be looking really good to be in the mix for the playoff. But it seems, Charlie, at the Big Ten, it's Wisconsin or bust, which maybe not the best. Maybe not the best scenario for the Big Ten.
No, didn't work. Not a great weekend for the Big Ten. I don't know if it means that Washington's going to get in, but this was a pretty good weekend for Washington with all the chaos because they went from nah, you can't get in to well, I don't know, maybe you can get in with a little bit of luck on your side. But yeah, I think, and I don't know if I trust Wisconsin to win 13 games without stumbling, but out of pandemonium level chaos, I don't think anyone else from the Big Ten is going to get in.
They do have Iowa and Michigan, their next 2 games. I think they're both at home, so that helps. And Wisconsin's schedule, not good. We've talked extensively about Central Florida and a Wisconsin team. Nathan, do you want to take a look or want to take a guess at my African-American horse for the playoffs?
Call me Nathan. That seems.
I don't know why. When I said it, it didn't feel right at all. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
What the hell are you doing here? All right.
Stacking?
All right. Let's take the old gander here at the dark
Duck,
horse.
goose.
Duck. Oh man. Yes.
What team? I think Charlie knows. What team am I? Why not? May as well. I'm picking this team for the goddamn playoff.
TCU?
Nope. We're going darker than that, folks.
Oh man. Is it a 2-loss team? Is it a current
Yes.
2-loss?
Yes. They've
I
got
know
to.
who it is. Now that I'm thinking about it.
If they win, Charlie, if they win out, they got to be in, don't they?
I think this is if you look at their record and someone says if they win out, they'll get in, you think, nah. And then you look and see who they play, and you're like, oh, yeah, I can see that. I think if
Auburn?
they do win out,
Yes.
Yep. No, that makes sense because you'd beat Georgia, Alabama, and then Georgia if they
Again.
were to somehow make it to the SEC championship game. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
and I think they did. I think Georgia already clinched the SEC
They did.
East. So, yeah.
I mean, that would be 5 top 5 wins in the span of a month. Presumably, Alabama would be number 1. Georgia is number 1 this week, so they would knock off the number 1 team in the country twice in about 3-4 weeks. So they would immediately jump up the standings.
Wait, it's 3. Wouldn't it be 3, not 5 top? 5.
Yeah, 3. Yeah.
Okay.
They'd beat the number 1 team in the country, presumably, like twice in 3 weeks. So that would be very impressive. So,
And more importantly, it would probably keep both Georgia and Alabama out of the playoffs. So if there's no other SEC team in, and you start thinking, well, okay, Notre Dame's in, let's say Clemson's in, let's say
Auburn.
Oklahoma's in, and Wisconsin, that those are the other 4 teams. I don't think Auburn would get left out. They would get in over one of those, I think.
I think you're leaving. You're discrediting the Louisiana Monroe Hawks, the Fighting Hawks, the Warhawks from upending Auburn. Very disingenuous.
is that right? Is that right?
Yeah, very disingenuous.
I like that Arkansas upset they pulled against Coastal Carolina. That was good.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the worst win of all time.
Yes. So Auburn, that's what I'm looking at right now. We talked about Miami a week ago, Mr. Stacken, and all right, it's setting up good for them. They're not beating anybody, and they're not very good, but goddamn it, they keep winning. And they beat a team last night, good enough. And this is basically a knockout game coming up next week. Notre Dame at Miami. I don't know if the Notre Dame quarterback is going to be there, so that's not good for them. I think Miami wins this game, and I think that knocks Notre Dame out of the playoff. And so I think it's going to be a knockout game, and I think we're getting Miami and Clemson winner in the playoff.
No, I think that makes sense. I mean, Miami played arguably their best game of the year last night against my Hokies, who are now 0-2 in the ABC nationally televised time slot here this year. That's not good. But, yeah, Virginia Tech's defense played decent. Here they forced multiple turnovers. The offense just couldn't get anything done. But, yeah, that was by far Miami's most impressive win, I would say. But they've pulled some out by the hair of their chin, against Georgia Tech and whatnot.
North Carolina.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Not good.
Stack it real quick on your Hokies. How come they're struggling in these big-time night games?
I don't know. It's just,
When their song when they run on the field, Enter Sandman, literally says exit light, enter night. I mean, it sounds like Virginia Tech should play well at night. How come they're not?
because they have a freshman quarterback who's a little scared of the dark right now. Josh Jackson just needs a nightlight. So he's going to overcome that fear in the offseason. And do watch out, Virginia Tech. They'll be right back here next year. So
Are you saying next year someone will take his hand and then they'll be off to Never Never Land?
I would say so. Yep. And
Those
they
are all the Metallica lyrics that I know.
now I lay me down to sleep. Pray the Lord my soul to keep. And if I die before I wake, pray the Lord my soul to take. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. And never mind that noise you heard. It's just the beast under your bed, in your closet, in your head.
Proverbs 4:13, I think what that called right there. So very nicely done. Charlie, it seems like this is like a crazy football season. It seems like that. And things will probably settle down here because there's a lot of teams you can make a case for. Georgia, Alabama 1-2 doesn't really matter. It seems like Notre Dame 3, Clemson 4. Is that how you see it? Is that unanimous? That top 4?
I agree. It'll be those 3 for the top 3. I could see it being Oklahoma over Clemson.
Their win.
But, I mean, Clemson had a big win over, not like a lights out good, but a pretty good NC State team, too. So I feel like it'll probably be Clemson at 4, but I could see it being Oklahoma also.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
It will not be Wisconsin. I feel confident in saying that.
Good. Miami probably going to jump up to at least 6 with their win against Virginia Tech. Let's see. Stacking this Heisman Trophy race similar to the season. Maybe we thought we knew who it was going to be, but now it seems like this is a wide open race with a month to go. Yep. I would maybe lean towards a Baker Mayfield as my pick. How would your guy Barkley do in this year?
Yep. No, I think that's right. And I would ask this question: what is for the Heisman winner? What is the worst record that a Heisman winner has ever had?
Tebow? Oh, in modern times, what was it, Charlie? Tebow was 8-4. Was that so?
They were 9-4, I think. I think Ricky Williams that they lost 4 games. I think Robert Griffin III, they lost 3 or 4. If you want to go back further, when the guy from Notre Dame won and Jim Brown didn't, I don't remember who it was that won it. It may have been Paul Hornung. They went like 3-8 or something like that. But I mean, that was over 60 years ago.
Because I am all on board. I've been on board now for the last couple of weeks.
Khalil Tate, you say?
The Khalil Tate. I'm on the Khalil Tate bandwagon. I mean, Arizona, if they can win their last 3, and you look at the schedule, it's incredibly easy. Oregon State, Oregon, Arizona State.
What
you can win those.
What about that he didn't play in the first 4 games?
Well, and that's
not great.
That is not. But
there is precedent for that. There was a guy in the 40s that won the Heisman that didn't play in like 3 games. Now, different scenario. It was that he didn't play because he shipped off for World War II.
I was hoping that was the reason. God damn it.
So it's not an apples to apples comparison, but there is precedent.
I was hoping.
When did he take over? Was that for the
October 7th again
October 7th,
at Colorado?
Okay.
At Colorado.
Yep. So since then, he's been on an absolute tear. I'm not saying necessarily that he should win, but I do believe that in this period of time where we don't have Saquon Barkley aside, he's come back down to earth a little bit here the last couple of weeks. I don't see why Khalil Tate should not be in the discussion.
He'll be Charlie. Any name we haven't talked about here? Baker Mayfield, Khalil Tate, Barkley.
There's one I was going to mention. I agree with Baker Mayfield and Khalil Tate. I think Saquon could get invited to New York. I think he's had enough weird games and losses that I don't think he's going to win it, fair or unfair. A lot of times like this, when a lot of guys kind of fall off, it's easy or safe, or one of the safe things to do is just look at teams that are really good and are going to have a chance to get to an old school BCS title game or now the playoff. So I think as long as they keep winning, which they probably will, you'll probably start seeing a lot of people out of the Southeast saying that Jalen Hurts should win the Heisman. I don't think he will do enough to win it in all likelihood unless, Tate and Mayfield both just fall off a cliff at the end of the year here, and he wins it by default. But I know there were some people last year that, with like a week left in the regular season, tried to make a case for Jalen Hurts. And if other guys kind of falter, I think that will happen again with just the sort of let's vote for the best offensive player for the best team as opposed to like the truly most outstanding. But it's a weird year for the Heisman.
Lamar Jackson's having a good year. They've lost a lot. He's still really good, and nobody cares because they lose all the time now. But Baker Mayfield, he's putting up some numbers. So I would go with him right now. So
maybe the best thing you can say about Mayfield, too, is that even though he's got a loss, like, he played well in the loss to Iowa State. They didn't lose because he played bad. He still threw for like 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is something that some of the other guys you can't say. I mean, Saquon Barkley's had games where they've lost and he didn't play great either.
No. Iowa beat the hell out of Ohio State. That was very surprising. What a surprise. Goddamn. Any thoughts on that?
Quick, which is more surprising? Iowa beating Ohio State that bad, or Washington losing to that terrible Arizona State team where they just couldn't score? I think those are the two most surprising games of the season for different reasons. I mean, I think I mentioned this earlier before we started airing to friends, and I talked about it with Stackett earlier. Like, if you would have told me Iowa would beat Ohio State in Kinnick Stadium, I would have been like, yeah, I mean, I can see a way that it happens, but it would have to be like 17-14. But there's no way I would have seen it like this.
And I mentioned it to you, Charlie, that Iowa has now scored 156 points in Big Ten conference play. They had 101 points coming into yesterday's game, so that's an average of 20.2 points a game in Big Ten conference play, and they scored 55. It defies logic. It really does.
A couple other quick stats. I saw that it was the most points they've scored in a conference game since 2010, and that if you go back to 2008, Iowa is 4-1 against teams ranked in the top 5 when they play at home. So if Iowa's playing a team in the top 5 at Kinnick Stadium, there's a good chance they win. The only team in the top 5 to beat them since 2008 was Penn State earlier this year, where it took Penn State to score on the last play of the game just to win. So there's something odd going on at Kinnick Stadium at night over the last decade with really good teams.
That was
they can't beat North Dakota State. Oh wait, that wasn't at night.
Can't do it. Turn the lights on when the sun is out. Next week, looking like another good week. You got Washington at Stanford. Washington, they got to win out to be in this playoff. They got Michigan State at Ohio State. J.T. Barrett, his Heisman hopes kind of went up in smoke there. You've got Oklahoma State at Iowa State. If Iowa State can pull off another upset. You have, North Carolina State at the offensive juggernaut known as Boston College. We'll see if Boston College can put up half 100 again. That'll be fun. Any worries, Mr. Stack, in Vodtech at Gotech?
Yes, but Gotech is not quite as good as perhaps we thought they would be.
Close games.
This year?
Close games.
It'll be close. I'll give Vodtech the edge, but certainly Gotech winning to pull an old Stack and adage, it would not surprise me.
How bad is that?
On Georgia Tech, is it just me, or does it seem like for the last decade, when we think Georgia Tech's going to be good, they're not that good? And when we think, dude, you're going to suck this year, Georgia Tech, they're like, screw you, we won 11 games.
How bad does that Tennessee loss look at the beginning of the year? My heavens. My heavens. A game that was going to be pretty good was Florida State at Clemson. But that's not much of anything right now. That should be just an absolute bloodbath right there. Clemson should beat them handily. Game of the week, though, Georgia at Auburn. Georgia's a 3-point favorite is all. I've got to go with Auburn.
You think that's the game of the week, not Catholics versus convicts? Notre Dame.
That's very good as well. It's a very good.
I would agree that those are probably the 2 best ones of the week.
And for once, the best 2 games aren't on at the same time. Look at us, folks. We get to watch 2 games at 2 different times. Very exciting. If their quarterback plays for Notre Dame, then I will be more excited about that. I think Auburn. I think the home teams win. Miami.
Was it the Notre Dame quarterback? I thought it was the Notre Dame running back.
Both.
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know how serious. I don't know how serious it is. I think the running back is not that serious, but that's not great. Also, you got TCU at Oklahoma. Winner of that's got the winner of that's basically your Big Ten champ or Big 12 champ. The last hope, one of those 2 teams. You also got Alabama at Mississippi State. Mississippi State 7-2. Charlie, I mean, is this a game? Mississippi State, Alabama. Should we maybe pay attention to this a little bit?
I hope so, because I kind of like Dan Mullen and Nick Fitzgerald, their quarterback, but I don't think so. I mean, it might be like Alabama beat LSU, where they only win like 27-13, but one of those where it's not as close as the score looks.
Stack, and any of those games interest you? TCU, Oklahoma. This sounds like a very good week. Very good week on paper. Lots of top 10, top 15 games here.
Yep. I mean, you talk about all the ranked matchups. We had, 7 this last week here. The schedule does look very good. Oklahoma State at Iowa State has certainly lost a little bit of
luster.
Yep, thank you. Michigan State at Ohio State. That is, for all intents and purposes, an elimination game if they have not already been eliminated. But yeah, it's good. It's going to be a crazy week. It's going to be a good week. I'm very much looking forward to some of these games here. It's unfortunate that TCU, Oklahoma, and Miami and Notre Dame are on at the same time, but that's what dual televisions are for. So, and Alabama, Mississippi State just kicks off an hour before that. So the night window here is going to be very good. And really nothing too concerning about Pac-12 after dark. However, I would like to mention there are only 50 teams right now that are currently bowl eligible.
How many we need? 68 or 80? I mean, 80 teams, or how many we need?
Yeah, Charlie and I were talking about this. I think it's 80, you said, right, Charlie?
Yeah, I screwed up at first. I said 80 bowl games. There aren't 80 bowl games. I think there's 40, and there's 80 teams that go. I think that's what it is.
There should be.
Give or take 1 or 2 or 3 bowl games now.
I feel like that's really low for this time of
what
the
did you
year.
say,
Now, I get
50?
50, yep. And now, there are many that are 1 win away. There are many that are 2 away. So they're going to get there, but it just, it feels, and you know what, actually, you have a lot of these teams that are 4 and 5 that are going to be playing against each other. So there's going to be a lot of bowl game elimination games coming up here.
Like Nebraska and Minnesota this upcoming
Exactly. Week. Yeah. Why? You know what? Let's stick to real sports here.
That's right.
The real teams here, not Nebraska and the AAA Gophers here.
What a shot! What a shot!
At the Gophers, not Nebraska. Yeah. But yeah, I just think that's a little low right now to have that few teams.
Notre Dame's guys will play. Wimbush, the quarterback. Josh Adams, the running back, a Heisman guy as well, a Heisman contender. If Notre Dame runs the table and make the playoff, I think their running back, Josh Adams, will be there in the top 5 of the Heisman. So, good game this week.
Here's my bold prediction that's probably not really that bold. And I'm not talking about all the games. I'm just talking about these ones where there's teams in the top 10 or 12 or so playing. I think there's going to be one upset. I don't know which one it is, but there's going to be one. But like the rest of them are going to be blowouts with the better team winning, because I feel like we're kind of due for one of those weeks where it's just like, I thought some of these would be great games, and other than 1 or 2 of them, most of them weren't all that great.
Let's not invite 5 and 7 teams to bowl games because they don't deserve it. So if we don't get to 80 eligible teams, can we just knock out
screw the bowl games? Oh.
We have to talk to ESPN, because those ones that are getting knocked out are usually the ones that ESPN owns to give them programming. So
no one watches ESPN anyway now. So as the decline is happening, I mean, can we get rid of the R&L carriers? Who the hell cares about?
No. You can't get rid of the R&L carriers one. You.
Okay, then the Gildan, New Mexico Bowl. Get that
out. No, none of them on the opening that opening Saturday where there's like 5 bowl games. We like those games. You got the New Orleans Bowl. You got the Las Vegas Bowl.
Camellia Bowl.
We like all of these. Yep.
I feel like if we're going to get rid of ones, we should not be getting rid of the ones for second place in a group of 5 conference. We should be getting rid of the ones for the 8th or 9th place team.
Here's what I say.
In the Power 5 conferences, because if Nebraska or Minnesota or Rutgers or one of those teams goes 6-6, it's like, you know what? I don't know if you really need to go to a bowl.
Little Caesars Bowl in Detroit, get the hell out of here. That's what I say.
How about the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl?
With all that history, you can't get rid of it.
Does it even have a history?
I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. Bad Boy Mowers.
Second, real quick, if you could bring back one now defunct bowl game, which would it be? I know which one I'd bring back.
Blue Bonnet Bowl.
I would bring back the Rum Bowl that was played in Cuba in the 1930s.
All right. I don't know if I can top that.
That seems extreme.
Only like 4 of them were played, but I feel like they should do that again. It'd be fun. Because A, just be like, you know what? We don't care. Yeah, it's booze that we've got sponsoring it.
Yeah.
And B, that not specifically because I like Cuba, but I just think it's fun when they do them in exotic locations in foreign countries. Where it's just like, yeah, this might be the only chance some of these guys have to go here.
We like that.
Wasn't there, like the GoDaddy Bowl, that game's gone. So
Is the one at the Marlins Stadium, is that gone?
yes, that one's no longer here
Disappointing.
this year. There used to be 2 in San Diego. They only dropped down to 1.
Oh, they
now.
got rid of the Poinsettia Bowl? This is dog shit.
Yeah, now it's the San Diego. No.
The Holiday Bowl ain't going nowhere.
Where are we here? Where got this pulled up?
San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl, and then you got the
Yes, it's the San Diego County Credit Union Holiday Bowl. So the Poinsettia Bowl is done.
okay. That's a shame. Where
As
is it?
long as do they still have the Popeyes Bahamas Bowl?
The Bahamas Bowl is still going. Yep. It does not say Popeyes though. It's sponsorless right now.
No,
But I'm sure
that would be akin of treason by the Bahamas Bowl if they're screwing over Popeyes.
I mean, the Frisco Bowl is going on. That's the first time this year I think ever that we've had a Frisco Bowl.
I like the Bitcoin Bowl a couple years ago. The Bitcoin Bowl, that was good.
Apparently, Bitcoin's worth more now because they're doing something with China. So
Bitcoin's going through the goddamn roof, stacking.
if what I said, if for their bowl swag they just give everyone one Bitcoin, those guys would be worth
Holy
way more
shit!
now.
It's up to over 7,000.
Why the hell do we have a Cactus Bowl and a Nova Homes Arizona Bowl? Just cut one of these Arizona Bowls out. Just need only one. You only need one. So I haven't seen
Back
at least.
the Dilly Bar Bowl. Have one in Minneapolis with Dilly Bar Dan as the
Dilly
host.
Bar, good God. Now we're talking. Phil,
Was
that's
that
it.
Tracy Clays that had the
No,
Dilly Bar?
this is.
No, it was some assistant. I don't know which one. Or maybe it wasn't even an assistant. It was just some stats guy.
It was very exciting. Eating the
I
ice
don't know.
cream.
We got to do something about these bowls though, and I still want Dole to come out. So we have the Dole Fruit Bowl. That can be played anywhere, like between Costa Rica, Puerto Rico,
San Francisco.
Florida, somewhere in there. And then the Lysol Toilet Bowl. I've been demanding that this be a thing because why not have 2 shit teams in there? You can play it in Detroit if you want. I'm fine with that. It seems like an apt thing to do, but yeah.
How about we get the Raisinets? Anybody like Raisinets? Let's get them in there. The Jelly Bean Bowl. Let's get some more food
Yeah,
bowls.
Jelly Belly. Let's go. Let's go, Jelly
We
Belly.
should somehow find a way so we are in charge of naming these bowls. We can at least come up with better names than some of them have.
Be very companies get that money going here.
The sports block. We'll figure out. But we're going to sponsor a bowl game here.
And it's going to be in Fargo. That's where I want to have it.
Oh, great. Yeah.
The Hooters Bowl.
Mm.
Is there still Hooters in Fargo?
No, there's not.
Well, that probably won't work then. We'll eat something else.
The Discovery Benefits Bowl. Yeah, let's figure something out.
The Sanford Bowl.
But anyway, the sports block. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But yeah, we need to get this going here.
Anything else in the world of sport? We talked baseball. We talked college football. I was going to do a college basketball preview. Games start on Friday. Very excited. All right, you're very
And some of these NAIA schools started like a week ago.
ridiculous. Yes.
To me, is just too early. I mean, like I don't think you should be allowed to. I mean, if you want to play an exhibition on Halloween, like so be it. But like you should wait till, like you said, this Friday. There shouldn't be any games that count before the end of the first week in November.
NAI, the wild, wild west. Anything else, Mr. Stacken, as we conclude another lounge?
The Dakota Marker rightfully staying in South Dakota. It was a great win for the Jackrabbits.
What did you tweet? What did you tweet? What, a week ago?
3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago.
Missouri State, was it already 3 weeks ago, for Christ's sake?
Yep. 27-24, and I said, I'm kind of done with the season. I want basketball to start. Since that tweet. Yep. They outscored Missouri State 35-6. They beat Western Illinois 52-24. And they beat NDSU 33-21. So they have, by my calculation here, that is 120 points that they have scored, an average of 40 a game during that span, and given up just 51. So
You're taking credit.
I am not going to say anything.
Do you
really
think that Stig saw that tweet and was like, oh man, this kid used to interview me. Now we really need to play better?
Yeah, I think so. I think the pressure got to him. I think that I think he saw it and said, "Holy nutmeg! I gotta get something going here." Because I always used to remember doing a coaches show with them, and like, you look familiar. Ain't that right, Crins?
Yeah, that's what we said last year. Like, oh yeah. And then he was here this year already, and I think he knew who I was. So good to refresh his memory after all of these years.
It was a great win though. They played very well, got away with a few PI calls, but or non-calls. That's fun. I think the final couple of weeks to the Missouri Valley schedule are as entertaining as anything else that's going on right now in the sport of college football, because SDSU, USD, NDSU, and Illinois State all play one another. So I don't think it is out of the realm of possibility that we see multiple teams here. I mean, you could see the winner with 3 conference losses. It is possible, I think.
Does SDSU win out? They got 2 games to go.
I think they beat Illinois State next week, and then depending on what's going down there in USD with the off-field incidents and Strebler, if he's healthy or not. This was the big game. I think you got to go. What's the Stig mantra? Go 1-0 each week.
Yes.
The Jacks are starting to play like the team we thought they would be. They are who we thought they were, to quote the late Dennis Green. And so I would give them about a 70% chance to win out.
Is that Football Power Index official?
It is Stack and Football Power Index. So if the SFPI is good, then
70%.
Yeah,
that's higher than what I would go. I'd go like 50. I'd go like 53%. I think it is going to be I think it's going to be tough to beat USD in Vermillion, just because USD is so much better now than they've been before. Not that they can't win, but I just think that's going to be really tough.
I think the way they're playing, I think they win out. They go 9-2. If they go 9-2, where are they at in the playoffs here? Are they a top 4 seed?
Yes. I think they have to be, because you would be beating at least 2 top 10 teams in the final 3 weeks, and Illinois State's got to be right up there too. Three top 10 teams in the final weeks, and I mentioned this with Charlie earlier. I think NDSU. I will give it about. I'll just maximize it. The total 100. I think it's about a 30% chance that NDSU loses their final 2 games. Home to USD and then at Illinois State. I don't know so much if it's the injury to Lance Dunn at running back, but they did not look invincible against SDSU. And with an offense like USD has, I think the Bison could be in a little trouble this week. And then against Illinois State, a team that plays when they want to, I guess. I mean, they just lost to Western Illinois, but they've looked really strong here the last few weeks. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that we see NDSU lose 3 games. Now, having said that, they'll probably win out, but I don't think it's going to be nearly anywhere as easy as we've seen them over the last few years.
If we know one thing about SDSU's chances in the playoffs going forward, some way or another, they need to not play in Fargo in the playoffs. Because if they do, it probably won't go well.
Let's put USD and NDSU on the same side of the map of the bracket this year.
That's a call to the committee. I think the conference gets 5 playoff teams. The 3 Dakota schools, Northern Iowa and Western Illinois. I think Illinois State loses their last 2, so they are out at 6-5. I think Northern Iowa wins at 7-4, and I think Western Illinois 6-3 right now. They win their final 2. They go 8-3. So I think you have 5 playoff teams from the Mo Valley. 2 will be seeds. USD will have a home game in the first round. Then Western and the other one, let them do Northern Iowa. They can do whatever the hell they want. But 2 seeds in the top 8, and USD gets a home game.
Just for fun, Krenz, and I know this is not set in stone because the regular season's not done yet. But let's go back like 5 years or so. What do you think now when people say the Missouri Valley's the SEC of FCS football? Since both conferences have maybe changed from.
I would say they're a little better than just having, because what was it? Who made the Illinois State made the title game, or Youngstown State made the championship game last year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So now I would say more valid because you have more than one team who is capable of winning a national title. So yes, I would say NDSU, as good as they come. SDSU's a top 10 team. USD, top 10. If you want to put them there, they probably won't finish there, but they're pretty good. I think at the top of the conference, they go a lot deeper now. So I am more of a fan now than I say I would be then.
Fair. I think that's reasonable.
Because back in the day,
and also the SEC looks worse now than they did 5 years ago.
SEC for the second, they look worse than last year. And last year, how would you? Georgia, at least the East now has a team, at least for this week, that seems to be in the mix. But
yeah, the SEC's got 2 really good teams. After that, I think Auburn's fine, and they've got a couple other LSU, Mississippi States that are fine, but not like oh my God, there's 7 teams in here that could beat everyone else in your conference. I don't think that's the case anymore.
Stack.
Oh, go with your thought because mine is a little unrelated.
Like Georgia, they're number 1, but like in past years, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, there's not much difference between those 3. They're all winning 8 or 9 games. Florida be the best of the bunch, but now Florida's not good. Tennessee's awful, but then Georgia takes a big step up. So I guess that would be better for them. Instead of having 3 teams that could win 8 or 9, they have 1 team that could win maybe 12. That would be good. But with LSU not in the mix again. Auburn staying in the mix. Bad year for the SEC.
Stacking, before you go, I'm just going to ask, mine's SEC football related. Is yours related to that or completely different?
Yes, it is.
Mine is as well.
Okay, go ahead then. Mine's just a one-off quick joke, but
I
think else can go.
We were talking about Western Illinois. They'll make it from the Missouri Valley. They beat Coastal Carolina 52-10 earlier this season.
Good win.
That Coastal Carolina team lost by 1 to Arkansas. So I think it's fair to say that Western Illinois could probably beat Arkansas.
Fair. Charlie, what do we got?
Travis mentioned both Tennessee and Florida not playing very well. I said this to Stacken earlier, but it bears repeating as many times as possible. Remember when Florida and Tennessee played in Week 3, and it was a matchup between ranked teams? And how the SEC East has changed since then.
It's changed a bunch. Do we still have any idea why McElwain was fired? Off-field issues. It sound like the death threat's probably not a good idea on his part. Is that the biggest reason?
I'm assuming they were just looking for a reason to get rid of him, and it was just the fake death threats. I think I said it to Stacken. It's sort of like the teacher in high school or middle school that really doesn't like a kid, and is just like, nope, you were talking, detention. And they're like, actually, he maybe wasn't talking. It's like, I don't care, you're on detention, done, see you later. And I think it's basically that was Florida's doing.
I would like to just bring up the fact here that I think Travis looks like Dan Le Batard today. With
Good.
the hat.
Good.
Nice.
I'll take that as a compliment. Good.
That is a compliment all the way through and through. But Charlie, just Google Dan Le Batard and look at some of these pictures he has with the hat and it's very.
Well, I know who Dan Le Batard is.
No, I know that, but he's different on his radio show than he is, say, on Highly Questionable or PTI.
He's got a hat on and he's got a
Yeah,
beard.
I can kind of see that then. I think that's fair.
And it totally meant to be a compliment.
We
Travis.
both
totally
like him.
meant.
We like him. We're big fans of him. Final thoughts. How would a one-loss Georgia team that loses to Alabama compare to an undefeated Wisconsin team? I got a feeling the committee would pick Wisconsin. I would not agree with that. I think that's what they would do. What say you?
I think it depends who Wisconsin plays in the Big Ten title game
Ohio State.
and how many losses. But then it would also, would that be Ohio State's third loss?
Yes.
So Ohio State
Yes.
would be 10-3.
Yes. Would that one win be enough to surpass Georgia, who was beaten over the hell Georgia? Georgia will have beaten Auburn and Notre Dame. I still think you got to put Georgia in, but I would think they would. The conference championship thing.
I don't know. They might put Georgia in.
I hope so.
Let's put it this way. Just not talking about just with Wisconsin, but in general, because a lot of people have said that there's going to be 2 SEC teams in. I think Georgia with a loss has a much better case than Alabama with a loss. Because Alabama, non-conference, their best game was supposed to be Florida State. Not their fault, but it turns out Florida State's terrible. So, if Alabama loses in the SEC title game, I think there's a good chance that they're just, out and done. And it's like, sorry, you didn't beat enough teams that were good. But if Georgia loses, I think they could still get in based off beating Notre Dame.
I think Alabama would just get in based on name.
Yeah, they might. It's possible.
If they're number 1, well, yeah, if they're number 1 or 2, that would be interesting because they don't. I mean, their wins. Mississippi State this week would be their best win to date on the road.
And right now, their best win, I think, is LSU, who they just beat, who happened to lose to Troy a month ago.
They can quit putting that game on at 7 o'clock. They can quit doing that. That's we don't need that anymore. And a bad set of games last night. Games last night were bad. There was nothing. Arizona USC made it interesting in the fourth quarter, but
even then, a lot of that game wasn't great either.
That was
there was the fourth quarter was pretty good, but other than that, it was kind of blah.
Kind of poop. So there you go.
Don't know if it was because of daylight savings time, but I do want to mention that there were 3 fights in NFL games today. AJ Green and Jalen Ramsey go at it, punches thrown. Mike Evans attacks Marshawn Lattimore in the Bucs-Saints game, and apparently Carlos Hyde, Frosty Rucker, and a Hassan Reddick
a triple
all
threat
get
match
into it in the Cardinals 49ers game. So possible suspensions. I don't know what it is, but fights Fights.
You said it might be because of daylight savings time. How would daylight savings time have anything to do with that?
I don't know why there would be 3 fights. I can only assume that maybe the players are just a little, they slept a little bit too much, and I don't know. It's me purely being just.
Or maybe they're angry because they did not get sleep because they went out partying and thought, I get an extra hour, it'll be fine. But if you stay up 3 hours later, that extra hour doesn't matter, which happened to me multiple times in college, where it's like, yeah, going to sleep an hour later is fine, but you can't go to sleep at 5 in the morning. That 1 hour doesn't make that big of a difference.
There again, though, daylight savings time causing some issues.
Do you ever think, Stacking, that each day that goes forward will be the last day of that calendar year, and that day going forward where you will not have a kid?
It's getting more and more real by the day, by the moment, and yeah, it's a tad stressful.
Stressful, you say?
Exciting, stressful, nerve-wracking. Have a baby class tomorrow, so.
Are you excited to meet baby Dalvin Stacking?
Dallas,
yes.
Dallas, Stacking. We got to get this thing going here pretty soon. Maybe this kid's going to come a little early, so maybe we should do this before.
Better get a board going.
Before, you come up. I'm sure you have a list of some sorts. Can you provide us with a list of, I don't know, whether it's 10 names or 20 names, whether it's 10 boys' names and 10 girls' names, and we have a draft of sorts? Can you provide us with names, and when we will draft?
So, wait, how's this going here now? So I'm like, could I just throw 10 names out here?
You don't.
You're guessing the name of the child.
Yes,
but it's got to be.
Do you know that? Like, you know if it's a boy or you do know it? You know if it's a boy or girl, right?
No.
You don't know. Okay, nobody knows. So you have.
No.
I assume by now you have a name picked out.
We have several that we're thinking of.
Okay, you're still on the clock. So
to make things really crazy, could I potentially add a new name to the mix?
If it's Ragnar, then yes, you can.
It's not Ragnar, but in some ways it's sort of similar to that. How do you feel about children named after cities or towns? How about Helsinki?
I like that. It will go nice with Reykjavik. I think that's name in there. Also, Detroit, I think, is one name that we are considering. It would be spelled Daytwa.
Name it Detroit.
Yeah.
Is there many disagreements when it comes to names or not?
No, we're pretty set in stone, pretty much in line. Well, not set, but we're in agreement. We're in a line of names.
So whenever you want to, you can provide us with, I don't know, a list of 10, whatever you have, maybe. If you want to add something, if you have to get it to 10, 10 boys, 10 girls, and we see if we can have a draft of sorts.
How do you feel about names after states of the United States?
You know what? Georgia is right up there. I would say
because there was a kid in our coverage area. I don't remember which school he went to, but his name was Montana Jackson.
That's right. Son of a bitch.
Montana could be a good name for a boy.
It could. I would also say that Dakota, of course. I mean that South Dakota, North Dakota.
Have you considered any Indian names? Maybe Eagle Butte Stacker.
I don't know. How about Maine? I think
Seminole.
Oh, how about Sioux? Oh boy, let's do that. Let's spell it. If it's a girl, we'll name it Sue, but instead of S-U-E, we'll spell it S-I-U-X.
I don't want the tribe coming to your kid when he or she turns 18 and they got to change their name. So
I like the way you said it first, better Stack, and just spell it S-I-U-X. Spell Sue like that, so it's still not the same the other way. Make it really confusing.
Yes, I think that would work really well.
It's very exciting. Kid updates from here on out. We'll see you in a few. This has been Lounge 233. Have a good evening, as we like to say. Have a good evening. And the hot stove commences as we speak.